I'm back, baby! I'm back!
The boys are back in town.
Why isn't anyone ever just whelmed?
Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 18 of Everyone Loves Young Justice podcast. I'm your host, Rob Myers, and Jay is here on this episode, just not in this intro, and I'll explain in just a moment. It's typical ELTD, ELYJ fashion, but this podcast is brought to you and hosted by the BatmanUniverse.net. You can find us on all the social media accounts. We are primarily on Twitter at ELYJPod. We have a Blogspot page that can be found at everyonelovesthedrake.blogspot.com. We're on Facebook at facebook.com/ELYJPod. And you can email into the show at elyjpodcast@yahoo.com. And if you listen to on iTunes, leave a review and help spread the word of the show. And we will read your reviews on this very show. Like I said, I'm Rob, and Jay is here. And again, like we do in some of our big recording sessions, we record for 2 or 3 hours or something crazy, and we batch a bunch of episodes. So over the course of the last 3 months, and we missed a month, we had enough to spread out our, I think I was calling this our summer break type of a release schedule. So we didn't do intros for every single episode. I would just attach them, and this is what you're currently listening to. So I was going to do one anyway for the show, but not necessarily what I'm about to say for the show. As you listen, this episode was actually recorded, or the series of the last 3 episodes you've listened to, including this one, was recorded on June 26th, was a Saturday or Sunday that we recorded. And like I said, it was a big, 2.5 hour recording session, and bam, there we go. I broke up the episodes as they were released and then did the intros as need be. What we didn't know at the time of recording and getting ready to release this episode, that there was going to be a big announcement on the longevity of this book. Now, I believe in the previous episode, Jay and I already kind of discussed that. But if you have forgotten, Young Justice is going to be canceled with the 20th issue that's going to come out in another month, I believe, because I think 19 just recently came out. So, back on August 26th, we didn't know that that was going to be a thing. So, spoilers ahead of time, you will actually hear me say about issue 15 that we're going to be looking at, if that tells you how far we are in the 2019-2020 book, that at about the end of the issue, I kind of felt like, and you'll hear me say that I feel like the book, if it got canceled right now, I wouldn't be surprised. And I was texting Jay back and forth before recording this intro of hey, do you want to hop on real quick and record for about 10 minutes? And he's in the process of moving. So he says, hey, I'm in the middle of moving stuff out of the house, so I can't record. But he did want me to say he's not surprised by the cancellation of this book. Now, again, I think we already kind of addressed it. But the cancellation, like I said, we recorded this on June 26th. The cancellation that DC had put out was released on August 14th. So it was, we have June, July, August, so almost 2 full months until DC finally announced that it was going to be canceled. So in this episode, you will hear Jay and I talk about how we are going to move forward in reviewing the Bendis run of Young Justice. So I won't spill all the beans in this episode, but we talked about looking at this more as, this is what's going on in the 2020 book. And okay, now back to 1998 or back to the Young Justice cartoon show or the animated tie-in books or something like that. This is the first Jay is hearing this since he is not here. I think obviously we're just going to continue and finish Young Justice just as we normally have been for the 2020 book, because it does have an end date. So we may lump them together in like groups of 3 or something like that, or 2 here or 2 there. And then at the 20th issue, that's it. And then this show will primarily become a 1998 show, and then obviously we will be talking about the upcoming seasons for the Young Justice animated show. And then I think we're going to throw in some of the tie-in comics as well, because there is a comic series that goes into, season 1, 2, and 3, and then probably soon to be season 4. So that's what the show is going to look like going forward past the 2020 book when it's canceled with issue 20. So right now, we don't know where all these characters are going to fall or what homes they're going to go back to, so to speak. It's probably as long as Tynion is on Detective Comics, and as popular as Tim still is, that Tim Drake Robin or Red Robin, whichever name he's using right now, I believe it's Red Robin, he will probably wind up in the Batman book and Detective and ancillary books in the Bat family, hoping, fingers crossed, he just gets a Red Robin title again. And, I'm thinking Bart will probably pop up in and out of The Flash. Cassie may reside back in Wonder Woman. Connor's in the Kent story going on right now in Superman and Action. So it'd be great if there was a new Titans book, because Teen Titans is getting canceled. So it'd be cool if they kind of revamp all these teen characters and say, all right, we've canceled all these teen books. Let's get a new teen book put back together, and bam, here's all these characters. I don't know if that's what's going to happen in the state of comics as they are right now. And plus, we are in the month of October that this episode is getting released, and we're nearing the end of the year. So I don't think we're going to find out anything really concrete till the first of the year to see if any of the teen characters that we're following are going to wind up in a new team book, or do they just pop up when whatever creator decides, hey, I'm going to use Arrowhead again. So at least we've got a few more episodes. If you have been enjoying the Bendis run, then we've got up to issue 20, and then this show will officially turn over into a full-time 1998 show, and then again, also looking at the Young Justice animated cartoon series. So with all that information out of the way, let's get into Jay and I's recording session for issue 15 of Young Justice. 3, 2, 1.
Recognize Superboy B04.
All right, so before we get into our featured book for today, we're back in the 2020 era of Young Justice. Now, this tweet went out in April 30th, to be exact. The tweet was, we're 15 minutes away from recording. What do you think about the last few Young Justice books released, issues 10 through 14, in Action Comics 1020 and 1021, which was just our previous episode. This could be a 2-part episode. And we have Fool on the Planet, and it was a 2-part episode. Fool on the Planet says, I like the story is starting to pick up, and I like the interactions between all the characters. I think Bendis is great writing dialogue. Tim's is great drawing their expressions. Plus, I love that they brought Arrowette back. Now, I think, Jay, you and I both had said, I think just in the context of the tweet that I had put out, I did think he is great at writing dialogue. Like, I've never complained about his dialogue usage. I think the amount of words in his storytelling, I think, has kind of slowed the story down quite a bit in a few eras. But I think we both said the last 2 previous Young Justice books finally pushed that pendulum a little bit farther forward. But I felt like it was 10 issues too long to get to that point. If that am I correct in saying that? Or
Yeah, I mean, I did mention that I really hate when he has characters say hi and then go into something. That
Yeah.
drives me bananas because he does it with everybody and all the time. And
Yeah, it's not a shtick.
If one character did it, it's like, okay, that's their thing. But it's like every character does that. I'm pretty sure he even does that on the Legion of Superheroes book, which
Yeah.
takes place in the 30th century, which is 1,000 years removed from modern slang. So,
yeah, I didn't even come up with another word.
but no, I mean, it's one of those things that's like, I mean, his ideas and the general dialogue isn't necessarily bad. It's just the pace of the story itself has been at times rushed, but more often it's just been too slow. It's been too slow to get to where things need to go. Feels like there's a lot of wheel spinning, to pad out a trade or to
Yes.
just delay some big reveal in one issue that makes it to where the entire point of that issue is that one big reveal and there's no other substance to it. So yeah, I mean, listen to our most recent couple of episodes and you'll find out exactly what we think of Bendis's writing. Tim's artwork I love. I think even I made the comment about one of the most recent issues, like issue 13 or 14, that there was a spread in there that Tim's did that separated and again, not in any derisive terms at all, but separated kind of the work for hire artist from the artist who has their own style. And, Tim's, I mean, in the best possible way was kind of one of those, we need a good, solid, strong artist who has a good eye for characters and, action and layouts and everything. Someone who can turn in some good work on a lot of different titles. Tim seemed to be that kind of artist for a while, just kind of bouncing around books, filling in or, doing a couple of issues on something. And the work was solid and strong. But he's developed his own style enough that he's starting to get, I think, more comfortable with using out-of-the-box layout choices and, different panel shapes and doing different things with his visuals that make it more unique and identifiable to him. So I've never had a problem with Tim's work in and of itself.
And I think, and I agree with everything you said about Tim's. I've really liked him on it. But to go back to Bendis for a second, I don't think we actually said this in the episode, our previous episode, if I remember right or not. But Walker is also a writer in this book. I think we said maybe around issue 10 or 11 or so that I think Bendis would be a good pitchman and a good plotter. I wonder if that isn't what's happening here, because, rumors going around that Bendis might be leaving the Superman books, and we'll see how that all plays out.
Yeah.
Now, since this is his Wonder Comics imprint, I don't know if he's leaving Young Justice or not, but with him adding Walker into the book as a writer or a co-writer, I half wonder if that's why we softened up a little bit. And I'm not trying to bash on Bendis or anything, but I wonder if that's why we maybe felt a little bit better that maybe Bendis is doing the thing that we've been saying he's might be better suited for, at least with this book, is being the pitch guy, and then Walker is writing this story around it. So I don't know if we mentioned that on the last episode.
I don't think we did.
So, but we've got one more question here from a good supporter of the show, and I've been meaning to give him a shout out. So, BJ Shea, how you doing, bud? Says, really enjoyed it. Seeing Arrowhead back was great, though. It seemed a little bit rushed, i.e. forced maybe, considering how big it was for Cassie to give up the costume in the 90s series, but I'll take any opportunity to see the whole crew together again. So we really didn't talk about Arrowette being reintroduced into the book. I did think that was one thing where Bart got to her really quick and she was just there in the book. As much, I can't believe I'm saying this, as much as we were saying, like, I could have taken we could have taken 4 or 5 of these issues out and you would have had a concise story. I think I wanted that to breathe a little bit more with Aqualad, Sideways, and especially Arrowette being like Phase 2 Young Justice 98 characters, new characters that were being added in. It was nice seeing her in the book, but I do agree with BJ. She felt a little rushed, like, oh yeah, by the way, here's, Arrowette.
Yeah, I mean, I think that she was served well in what she could do, had to do in the story. I mean, like with any of the other quote-unquote real Young Justice characters that they introduced, I could have done with seeing more of them. But, I mean, I think of any of them, Sissy was the one who was, if anybody was short-served in the story, she was the one that was least short-served, if that makes sense. Like, she had the most to do, she had the most exposure, she had the most impact, I would say, on the story. So, if anything, she had plenty of screen time, so to speak, but it's the others that maybe could have used more, but I thought it was okay.
Yeah. Well, speaking of Arrowette and the boys in the band and everybody that's in here, our single book for today is, this will be a little short, sweet episode, Young Justice 15, The Truth About Superboy. I've got both covers here. Got the John Timms, Gabe Altabe cover, and we also have the Ben Cadwell cover. And I don't know if you've got this in front of you. I wanted to talk about the variant cover just for a second. When I got this out of my pull box, for a brief moment, looking at Cassie, I thought this was a deceased cover. Because I thought, what is going on with her face and Connor's face? Like, this is actually the first variant cover, actually the second variant cover now, to feature Drake here, or Robin, as he's called in the book,
yes,
holding his green bazooka, which I was like, please don't tell me this is a thing. Like, where's his bow staff? I get it, he had it back in Gem World, or not Gem World, but in the multiverse thing.
Wasn't it Earth 2? Is that
Earth
where they
2,
were?
yeah.
Yeah.
But,
I didn't put it together, but yeah, this does look like a deceased cover. Like one of those movie poster variants they would have.
Yeah.
I don't know. It reminds me of Alex Maleev Light.
Okay, all right.
Like, that's what it's trying to be, and I mean, it's not bad per se. In fact, take Drake out of this, who just the bazooka and the costume and he looks like Wolverine.
I know.
I mean, in all honesty, just take that out of it, and some of the composition's actually cool. I like Ginny Hex, just kind of firing off to one side, and then you have the Wonder Twins meeting in the middle, their powers, and then Bart running off the other side with Teen Lantern as kind of a focal point down there. Some of it looks awesome, but I mean, it's just one of those covers that clearly has something it's going for, almost gets there, but doesn't quite. So, yeah, and I didn't even think about it until just a minute ago. I was like, who does this look like? But it does look a lot like Alex Maleev, who, did like a lot of the Daredevil stuff with Bendis, and pretty sure he did the Detective Comics 1000 story that Bendis did.
Oh yeah, that's right, the Penguin one.
So yeah, it's almost like it's trying to be one thing and also trying to at least evoke one person's style, and not quite getting. I don't hate it, but yeah, I mean, overall, I just don't think it quite works for what they're going for.
Yeah. Again, I'm a sucker, so I bought both. But if I was buying one, I would have just bought 15 and been just fine.
Yeah.
With it.
The main cover's fine too. I like the main. I like the main cover.
I think it looks really good, and there's more of the art style of the coloring that you and I both can't figure out what that's called, and it's going to kill us both once we see what it's called, and there'll be an editor's note somewhere.
Yeah.
We were talking before off mic about, depending on what we have to say about this book, I think the bigger thing is the cliffhanger for the last issue was, the truth about Young Justice. Where have they been? Why don't they remember where they are? And I just got to say, at the beginning of this, they have the roll call down at the very bottom of and I think I've said before, I love seeing all of the characters' names in their fonts. And again, as much as I don't like the Drake's costume and the Drake's name, you have the D like the R with the circle around it. Why is that not the logo on his chest rather than the crescent moon that constantly moves around his uniform and is never in the same place twice?
Seriously.
Okay.
Because even that crescent moon look could work if they didn't have like a superior logo there, like already. Because even though I don't like him going by Drake, just using the basic Robin font for the name, looks at least cool enough. But then there's the weird gray half moon against the red, against the brown and the yellow and the black. It's just more of these clashing colors that just don't make any sense together.
I told myself I wasn't going to talk about the costume for this episode.
Well, I did, so there we go. But yes, I really like all those, like you said, sorry to interrupt, I really like all the different logos down there. Some of them are classic. Impulse and Superboy look like they were, taken out of the 90s.
Yep.
Then you have ones that maybe wouldn't normally have a logo. Like Spoiler, hers looks kind of cool, and Aqualad's looks really cool, and Teen Lantern looks like a Green Lantern, but just with teen. And then Ginny Hexes, evokes Jonah Hexes. So just really fun seeing all those characters represented down there.
Yeah, and I think this is the best Naomi has looked. I mean, not that she hasn't looked horrible, but I really like the look of her. And then that being said, the elves that are it's the Wonder Twins. The ears are really large. I saw a couple reviews talking about that. But speaking of that, Jan refers to Drake as Robin. Yes, I have Robin. So it's just really funny. You got the Dial H for Hero back there. I don't know if he's given a name at all.
I think when he was in, because the thing of Dial H for Hero is anytime they do it, they get like another random superpower. So I think they're kind of cheating, breaking the rules / just doing plot convenience. Because I'm pretty sure the character's name was Miguel.
Okay.
Pretty sure he had this costume and power set at one point in the miniseries too, and I think he just went by Super Miguel.
Okay. But yeah, it's a cool shot here. The title is Warriors Finale, which I don't know if it's necessarily a finale because every story is going to continue on.
Yeah.
But we get some banner back and forth with the team, and then a series of panels of Dr. Glory trying to get away before he's finally taken out by Bart, while simultaneously being taken out by Arrowette, like where she was like, I let the arrow go the instant before she saw Impulse had it, so Impulse not only takes her down, but she gets zapped by Arrowette's arrow, which I thought was kind of funny. And the explanation about where meta, I think is the term I want to use, of Bart's explanation when Tim says, okay, what did you see with Bart zipping all around? In the last issue, it was really kind of hard to tell what Bart was doing. I thought it was more of like, okay, he's just seeing where Dr. Glory is. Okay, here's the room, and the team's going in. What we find out is that he was going through files and he was reading everything, and it's kind of a cool twist for Bart, who's normally kind of crazy and kind of chaotic. He's spitting out, okay, here is what happened to all of us. So it's funny reading this going, yep, you've just described the last 20 years of DC Comics and mentions the Crisis and all this stuff. And in a roundabout way, almost says like, hey, we're comic book characters, and every now and then there's a start and restarting of the universe, and that's why memory. So it was really kind of cool to read, but at the same time I was going, I wanted something else there. It was cool, but not cool. What were your thoughts on the explanation of how and why, and was almost like all this stuff was going on, but because you were zipped off to Gem World, speaking about Connor here, you were kind of just forgotten about. You were gone.
Immediately after I finished reading this issue, I had my thoughts for the show, like already just my general thoughts, what I was going to say. It was 22 pages of things we already knew.
Well, that's Everyone Loves Young Justice.
And it was frustrating because some of it, at least the presentation, was really cool. Like Bart standing atop one of the Earths while he sees other Earths in the background being destroyed, and the Justice League kind of shadowy back there, and just all this. Again, one of those things that, as a layout, as a piece of art, is phenomenal work from Timms and El Taib. But everything that he's telling us, everything that, what's her name, Dr. Glory, or Dr. Star Labs here, which Superboy called her. Everything that they're saying is something that we either already know from within the Young Justice series here itself, or that we already know as, fans of DC Comics.
I was going to say human beings that collect DC comic books.
To the point that they even recycled images from a few issues back.
Yes.
Like, I'm surprised that Victor Bogdanovich and Doc Shaner didn't get art credits here. Because
yes, I'm glad you brought that up.
Because, their work is reused. And again, like that one shot from, I think it was like issue 11 or 12, where it has, you can correct me in the show notes if you want to, where Connor is like floating upside down in like the multiversal abyss, is gorgeous. But all they did was take that one image from a previous issue and slapped some new dialogue on it to explain something that we as readers already know. And it was honestly frustrating. It's, I mentioned in some of the previous episodes with the previous couple of issues, I just thought that this was taking even more of a step back after we got at least some movement with the plot. Because, I mean, even if this doesn't necessarily take a step back, I wouldn't go that far, it doesn't move anything forward. We're still stagnant. We're still staying in pretty much the exact same spot that we were when we finished the previous issue and started this one. So I was kind of frustrated with this issue, I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, and I was trying to sell this a little bit more. Like we were talking in the previous episode, I don't want to call this the Bendis dump and literally mean we're dumping on the book, but I think this goes to show, if you listen to the last episode, when we're in 1998, we're pumped, we're jazzed about going through that 80-page giant, and to come back here, there was a little, not that I don't like talking to you, Jay, but there was part of this where I was going, all right, little moments. I'm flipping to the middle of the book where the staple is. Thank you, DC, for not putting page numbers. But seeing little things like Tim and Steph finally getting their little embrace, their little kiss, and oh, that's nice to see, and all of them having these little moments. But it's, like you said, like we were standing over here, and then we just took 2 steps to the left. We're in the same room. It's the same furniture and same setting. We're just looking at it from a different perspective. And you could take these 22 pages and just say, oh, well, it's just 20 years of DC Comics history, and that's the explanation of why they don't remember things. Which, in the grand scheme of what DC's doing or what they were going to do with the Watchmen and Dr. Manhattan and all that stuff, that he took 10 years of their time. To me, there was a story in there of, like, I wanted to hear a reason why Connor doesn't remember, Arrowette or whatever, or Impulse. There to be a thing. The MacGuffin in this is just from 1998 till 2020, there have been 4 crises that have gone on in some various form, or 3 crises, whatever it is. And that's the explanation. Like, me going, in the real world, I know that there's a crisis. Like, these are fictional characters. Come up with a thing. Don't give me the real world answer, because, not to sound like a jerk, I could have written this. You know, if that's what the explanation was. Like, I can't believe you sat around a table and said, we're just going to use real life to explain why some memories are foggy.
Yeah, no, I mean, I totally get it. And I mean, the in-story explanation, it's not that it doesn't work. It's just that,
right.
Again, it's stuff that we know on a metatextual level. And then all the stuff that, you know, we're told about, you know, what happened to Connor and what happened to everybody else. We've been told this before in this series anyway. And then the issue ends with a stinger. Spoilers, but you know, it ends with the cliffhanger that we're finally going to figure out what happened to Bart and where he was during all this multi-dimensional, you know, hopping and everything. And that's the stuff that we want to know. You know, a year and a half on, we're still waiting to figure out what happened to one of the central characters. And this is after we've been told what happened to Superboy twice. And like, even early in the series, one of the things that kind of frustrated me with, I think it was just the second issue, was the one that focused a lot on Cassie. Is I think the comparison I made there was the pacing of that issue felt like the B plot of 2 or 3 different issues cut up and pasted together to make just one single issue. So, you know, when we should have gotten something that was moving the plot forward, and then, you know, every couple of pages, take a page or two to find out what's happened to Cassie over the course of, you know, 4 or 5 issues. Instead, we got all the here's what happened to Cassie as, you know, the secondary plot of several issues just pasted together, and it just didn't flow well. Like, at this point, that's almost what I want, is for there to be more than just what the supposed A plot is, because they're saving all the B plot stuff for like an entire issue and then just spinning their wheels in other issues just to, I said it earlier, just to almost pitch up and, you know, tee up a big reveal that it ends up that is the only reason for, you know, that issue now is for this one big reveal, and everything else is just, you know, fluff. It's just filler. It has no other purpose than to fill out the 22 pages.
Yeah. I was really kind of pumped is the wrong word. I was anticipating this issue is probably the other one, like knowing 15 was coming out, and I was kind of sort of trying to not read anything online about, you know, people's reviews of it, because I wanted to go, finally 15 issues, we're going to find out the reason why. And like you said, it's just set dressing for but wait, there's something else afoot. Like we didn't even get a real explanation other than Tim going, oh yeah, Zatanna mentioned something about our memory. Like that, I think that was issue 6, I think, with the spoiler and Tim Drake issue. Yeah, I was really kind of excited about that issue of like, oh, we're delving into, you know, Doomsday Clock territory and Rebirth stuff that was introduced at the very beginning. I was like, oh, cool. Well, eventually we're going to get there. I didn't think eventually was going to be a year and a half later to get to this, to go, oh, all right, it's everything we already knew. Yeah,
and it's just frustrating because, I mean, I may have said this before, I don't remember, but I mean, you know, the name of this show is Everyone Loves Young Justice, and we love Young Justice. I want to love Young Justice. And yeah, with you listen to our Secret Origins 80-page giant, you know, episode, we had a blast talking about that one. Even if a couple of the stories we didn't love as much as the others, it was still great reading that just because it was so exciting and so fun. And even though that was telling us origin stories that we may have already known, at least it told it in a fresh way that made it exciting to read. This really is not. And to your point, I don't know if that's because Bendis is to blame or if Walker is to blame, because Brad Walker is, also credited as one of the writers on this.
Right.
I don't know, who is really the one that is holding the book back from what we want it to be, but I mean, there's just something there that's just not working and keeping me from, loving this book.
Yeah. And this is kind of treading on territory, and I hate to say this, having a podcast that says everyone loves Young Justice, but it's starting to tread on a territory of, please don't at me at this, the New 52 Teen Titans. I'm the Tim Drake guy. I love this character. I'm going to buy books because this is my fix of where I get Tim Drake, but I don't want it to be the book where I go, okay, well, that issue is all right. What the heck is going on in this issue? I don't want it to get to that point, and especially the way this book ends with all the characters like, yeah, we're going to be a team, but we're not going to have a meeting, and it's almost like the idea that you and I had of I think it was our commentary track for a Young Justice episode, I think, where we were like, oh, we're going to put the team together for, okay, it's going to have, these 3 characters in it for this arc, and then the next book is going to be these couple characters. It's almost kind of left that way. Like, they're not going back to Happy Harbor. They're not going to go hang out anywhere as a team. They're just going to go all their own separate ways. Like, until the final page reveal, I was like, did this book just get canceled? Is that the end of Young Justice? Because
it kind of feels that way.
it feels that, like, if this was the last issue, I was like, well, all right, I wouldn't be surprised. We have one less book to cover. So I did not mean for this episode to come out this way, because Jay and I have said repeatedly on the show, we love these characters, and I think I think you've kind of been this way all along. You've been apprehensive. Early on with this book, I was like, oh my gosh, it's so great seeing all these characters together, but you kind of always, at least in my estimation, we're always kind of sitting in the back seat of like, okay, I'm a little apprehensive, but we'll see where it goes. And I think I have now landed where you were, and I'm looking over from the driver's seat going, oh yeah, you're right, that we did make that turnip period that you said was coming.
Yeah,
so,
and yeah. I mean, to your point, and even one that I was, hinting at too, is, I love these characters. I love Young Justice. I want to love the book. I love having this podcast where Rob and I can talk to each other, because, just on a personal level, and if this comes off as, a little sappy or whatever, I don't care. I love talking to Rob about this stuff. I become, I think genuine friends, and not just podcasting partners, but, friends that enjoy just discussing comics and other things with each other. So I like talking about this stuff with Rob, and I want to I enjoy the conversations that we're having as, friends and fellow geeks and everything, but I want to enjoy what we're talking about too. Like, I'm having fun, with the podcast itself. One of the 98 episodes I mentioned about how, I get, like to write things as I'm inspired now, because I don't need to write a weekly review for every book that's assigned to me or whatever, because if I don't like something, I don't want to write about it. It's draining. It's not fun. So I don't want to talk about something that that I'm not enjoying, because I want to enjoy what I'm talking about. So hopefully, there's some sort of shift soon that this book becomes what we want it to be, and that it could be, and that it honestly gets really close to every now and then, but then it just doesn't quite get there. I hope it gets there soon, because even if, for lack of a better term, even if the 2019 series here stays homework for a while, we still have the 98 series that, we've been having a blast talking about. And, we have the animated series that we can talk about, and, all sorts of other things that we could talk about that we actually enjoyed and would talk about how much we loved it. But I want it to be, Everyone Loves Young Justice without any sort of, disclaimer to it.
Right.
So, yeah.
And I've been kind of thinking, too, this is kind of putting this out here. This may become, here's what's currently going on the 2019 book as an opening bit, as instead of the feature, a side feature in tandem with 98. If this is something that Jay and I are listening to a podcast, hearing people go, oh, I didn't like this, oh, I didn't like this, that's not going to be fun for you, the listener, to go, oh, these two guys really don't like this book. Why am I listening to the show?
Yeah.
We don't want it to be that way either. So this could come as just an addendum in the episode. Oh, before we sign off, here's what's going on in the 2019 book. Like, it might go that way if things don't turn around. I'm just throwing this out there. This may not be in the show. Jay may say, oh, hey, cut that out of there. But that is something I've kind of thought about. There's a couple podcasts that I've listened to where they were covering some eras of books that they didn't like, and they quickly were like, why are we covering this book if we're both not on board? So they changed gear and just removed that book from their show.
Yeah, I mean, frankly, if it doesn't, I mean, I'd still want us to acknowledge it and discuss it a little bit, just because, this is all-encompassing Young Justice. But,
right.
Yeah, I mean, if I wouldn't mind changing formats for it if the 2019 book, because, that's also, not the exact reason, but part of the reason that, we took a little break doing the animated series commentary and, discussing some of that is just to talk about something else, just to get a little variety there. To cover more Young Justice material, but also just to be like, we're not loving this, so let's, light some fires under ourselves again. So don't worry, guys. The show's not going anywhere. I was telling Rob that I might be taking a podcasting hiatus for a little bit with my own show, at least with Comics Now, just because of work and personal stuff. So it might be a little bit before we come back into this, because you know how the world is right now, and my workload has just gotten even more intense and more honestly draining sometimes. So I've just been incredibly busy and, just need to unplug. So it might be a couple of weeks. By the time this episode comes out, we may have already recorded two or three in the can. But just in case there's a little bit of a delay, that would be why. But I want to love this book. I love Tim and Connor and Cassie and Bart and Sissy and Ginny and everyone in this book. It should be fun. It should be enjoyable. It should be a book that we look forward to and love going on these adventures with these characters. It's not there. It's not there yet. I hope it will get there. Right now it's not, and everything. But I still love the characters, and I still love doing this too. So I'm glad we can at least vent with each other.
Yeah. So before we sign off here, probably when this episode comes out, I'm going to put a poll. And if you're listening to this episode, maybe a way to interact and send an email or tweet at us what your thoughts are of the Bendis book up till this point. Is this something that you want this to continue to be a feature, or would you rather kind of see it go more as a side note? We did that in the Drake for a little bit of, okay, here's what's going on in the Tynion run until something big happened, rather than, that show was the 90s show, and we could throw in the animated series or the animated series comic books along with it. Mm-hmm. And then do this as, hey, here's currently what's going on in the 2019 book. So let us know what you guys think out there. But I think that's where we're going to end this episode. Got anything else for this, Jay?
No, just, thanks for, sticking around with us and listening, everybody. Just personal level. Hope everybody's out there staying safe and healthy and, just having a good time. And that you guys love Young Justice too. So thanks for listening to us, genuinely and sincerely.
All right, well, that's going to do it, folks. We'll see you on the next episode. Take care.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to Everyone Loves Young Justice podcast. We are part of the BatmanUniverse.net podcasting network.
If you would like to get a hold of us, you can do so a few different ways. We are on Twitter at ELYJ Podcast.
We are also on Facebook at www.facebook.com/ELYJpod.
You can email into the show at elyjpodcast@yahoo.com, and we will read your comments on the air.
If you listen to the show on iTunes, leave a review there. That will help spread the word of the show, and we will read your review as well.
Now, if your mode has been crashed,
or if you feel a bit whelmed by the show, no infringement was intended.
All music and sound clips belong to their respective copyright holders.
These are just to illustrate and enhance your listening experience.
No coinage is, was, or will be made by this show.
Our wives said so. All characters discussed on the show belong to DC Comics.
The opinions on this show belong to the two chatterboxes alone.
Not that anyone else does, but if you want your voice heard, let us know
why everyone loves Young
Justice.